Good afternoon, and welcome to the panel session that is going to be dedicated to the Planet Pledge that the WFA launched in June this year. My name is Stephan Loerke. I'm the CEO of the World Federation of Advertisers, and I'm delighted to be joined today by two truly remarkable global marketing leaders, Ana Henao, the Global Vice President Marketing at Pepsico. Welcome, Ana. And Raja Rajamannar, the Chief Marketing and Communications Officer at Mastercard and also the President of the World Federation of Advertisers. Welcome, Raja.
Thank you, Stephan.
Now, I realize that not all of you may be yet familiar with the Planet Pledge initiative, and therefore what I suggest we do is I'll quickly give you a run-through of the Planet Pledge initiative before we turn to our two panelists to start our conversations. So, the WFA, at the start of this year, ran a survey on marketing and sustainability among over 700 marketing leaders in 23 countries. And the survey results were pretty sobering. On the positive, let's start with the positive, 95% of marketing leaders felt that the marketing function can make a difference in the sustainability journey. And that conviction was echoed by consumers. According to data from Nielsen, 92% of consumers agree that brands have a responsibility to change consumer behavior. However, when we look at the maturity curve from a corporate level, our research found that 2/3 of the sample felt that at the corporate level, their companies were progressing well. So 2/3 of marketers saying their companies were on a good path, either well advanced or progressing well on their sustainability journey. And that stands in stark contrast with the evolution of the marketing function. More than half of senior marketers who responded to the survey felt the marketing function is only about to start or taking the first steps on the journey. And so without going into too many details, we identified three gaps that are holding back the marketing function today. The first one is an organizational gap. Where does the responsibility for sustainability sit in the organization? The second one is a skills gap. There's a huge need for upskilling marketing teams when it comes to sustainability. And the third one is a measurement gap. What's the right metrics? How to measure progress? That's why, with the help of a group of global marketing leaders, and including Ana from Pepsico and Raja from Mastercard, WFA developed and launched the Planet Pledge in April this year.
In May 1927, the 15 millionth Model T came out of the plant.
A large injection molding machine turns out all the parts needed
to meet the customer's demands for service.
From the eye appeal and swift effectiveness of the smallest utensils
So with the Planet Pledge, the Chief Marketing Officer becomes the champion of the climate agenda in the company. Marketing innovation, marketing communication, and creativity become accelerators of change. And by signing the Planet Pledge, Chief Marketing Officers make 4 major commitments. The first one is they sign up to the United Nations Race to Zero and encourage the supply chain to do the same. This is the highest hurdle to clear. It means reducing CO2 emissions by 50% by 2030 and becoming climate neutral by 2050. And that is valid for the company that signs up to the Planet Pledge. The second commitment is they commit to upskilling their marketing teams. There's a huge need to scale the capability of marketing organizations to lead the climate action. The third one is to commit to harness the power of marketing organization to drive more sustainable consumer behavior. So this is at the core of what marketing can do, which is use marketing in order to accelerate change in consumer behaviors. And fourth, they sign up to creating a trustworthy marketing environment where sustainability claims can be easily substantiated and greenwashing avoided. Now, we've been making really, really good progress since we launched. Very proud to say that we have 17 companies, 17 among the most admired brands who've signed up to the Planet Pledge so far, and we're actually confident that we will be announcing additional signatories in the coming weeks. You will see that among those 2 signatories, you will find Pepsico and Mastercard, and I think that's an excellent segue into our panel discussion with Ana Henao and Raja Rajamannar. So let us now come back to the panel discussion and welcome back both Ana and Raja. And here's the first question to both of you. And if you don't mind, Ana, I will be starting with you. From your perspective, what would you consider that marketing has been driving the sustainability agenda in PepsiCo? And if yes, why would you say that?
Thank you, Stephan. I will consider that, yes, it has been not only marketing, but it has been a multifunctional company effort. PepsiCo recently introduced what we call Pep Positive, which is an end-to-end transformation program with sustainability at the center of how the company will create growth and drive value by inspiring positive change for the planet and for the people. This program actually is rooted in 3 pillars. The first pillar is positive agriculture, which is focused on regenerating farming practices. The second pillar is positive value chain with a commitment to net zero emissions by 2040. And then the third one is positive choices to do better for people. We are at the beginning of a great journey, but we feel very positive about what we've done so far. Let me share with you some examples of the big strides that we have made this far. In Latin America, they source all of its operations with 100% renewable electricity. This milestone will result in savings of thousands of tons of CO2 emissions, which is equivalent to a carbon footprint of over 7 million trees. In Europe, we're moving our Pepsi brand in 11 countries to 100% recyclable plastic packaging by next year. We're also developing reuse solutions such as SodaStream, which is present in more than 40 countries. SodaStream is bringing PepsiCo flavors like Pepsi Zero Sugar, Lipton, and Bubbly, which helps consumers to avoid the use of more than 200 billion plastic bottles by 2030. And then with Lay's, for example, we're transforming underserved community spaces through the power of soccer by building pitches made of used chip bags. So as you can see, I will say that marketing and with the effort with other functions, it is definitely driving the sustainability agenda. We have still plenty to do, but I think we're off to a good start.
Thank you, Ana. And Raja, would you say that marketing has been driving the sustainability agenda and the climate agenda at Mastercard?
So what I would say, Stephan, is when you're committing as a company to the sustainability cause, it is the CEO who is actually in the driver's seat. So he's committed, in our case, our CEO, he's committed fully, and he owns it and he drives it. Marketing brings it to life. And we bring it to life through a variety of programs, and we can get into the details slightly later. But to your specific question, marketing is absolutely probably in the most significant seat to bring our sustainability initiatives, to conceive of them and to bring them to life. That's what marketing is doing, and doing so very successfully so far.
Thank you, Raja. And what would you consider to be the most pressing problem that your company in its category of financial services, what would be the most pressing problem you feel needs to be addressed in the context of the climate crisis?
I would say, Stephan, that collaboration probably is the main barrier for this transformation. When you think about the business in which PepsiCo is in, which is food chain is a very complex system with multiple stakeholders. So we recognize that we as a company cannot generate the change. We are one actor of many that need to work together in a collaborative way to make sure that we bring this to life. So if you take, for example, the example of packaging, our ultimate aim is to create a circular economy where plastic waste is a thing of the past. But we cannot do that by ourselves. We have to engage with our suppliers. We have to engage with internally, and we also have to engage with consumers to make sure that we can bring this to life. Internally, we're working very strongly on how to tackle these issues. And we're also engaging strongly with external partners to make sure that we have access to the innovation, to make sure that we have access to the distribution, and to make sure that we have access to the tools that we need to make sure we bring this to life. At the same time, we collaborate with consumers by communicating with them what is our intent and what is a change of behavior that we're expecting of them, so that together we can really put a plan that is sustainable and that will create an impact today, tomorrow, and for the years to come.
Thank you, Ana. Raja, what would you consider to be the most pressing problem with respect to the climate agenda that you're facing as a company?
See, first thing, Stephan, is it's about the commitment, right? You're not doing it just for purpose washing or greenwashing, which means you have to walk the talk. If you have to walk the talk, you have to have a lot of realistic considerations to be brought in. So, for example, how are the economics going to look like? If the economics are not blended into your core business model, this becomes like a one-off ad hoc kind of an activity. And when there is a little bit of a stress on the business, the purpose objective goes out of the window. That's not how it should be. So having that sustained, continuous commitment is the biggest barrier, number one. Barrier number two, in order to bring it to life, I think we have to get off the platform where we say, who is owning it and who is driving it? The key thing is, are we collectively coming together to make it happen or not? And marketing is a huge, huge enabler of it. We are blessed with the creativity, with the storytelling to engage our consumers, engage our partners. I think that is very critical. Most important part of this collaboration is, how are your own employees embracing it? Because employees are the biggest brand advocates for you. And if they see that the company is genuinely doing something about sustainability, and these days, I think very few people do not care about sustainability, everyone does. So in that kind of a situation, they feel motivated, they feel inspired. So it's important to carry them with you as a system. And like Ana was telling, the other thing is in terms of partnerships. This is a problem which one single individual company or one single department can actually bring it to life. It has to be working across the aisles. And like, for example, at Mastercard, scaling, we said it has to be, if it doesn't scale, it doesn't matter. So that has to be a key area of focus. And if it becomes just a hobby where you're planting, 5 million trees or 10 million trees, it's not going to really cut. It's not really going to make any significant difference. You can just check mark and say, yeah, we have done sustainability initiative, but that's not meaningful. So how do you bring the power of your entire network, of your brand, to stimulate that activity, to bring it to life, and to have clear measurability? Like, for example, we said as a first goal, We launched our own initial initiative called Priceless Planet. We are planting about 100 million trees around the world. We are also doing sustainable, we have got a directory of vendors who are actually complying with sustainability, and we make it available to our all network partners, which is the banks, fintech companies, and the merchants. We recycle the plastic, so we have got recyclable plastic material. We're partnered with a company called Economy out of Sweden, and this is basically a card which measures your carbon footprint in a very, very accurate fashion. And when you reach your carbon footprint limit for the month, the card is turned off. Very unique concept. It's being launched in Nordic countries. Great concept. So it takes a whole bunch of activities to bring it to life in a 360 fashion. So measurement, that's the last barrier or challenge I would say, is you might feel emotionally good that you're doing something, but again, if you don't know how it is working, what results it is producing, what your actions themselves have been, the whole thing sort of falls apart. So from that perspective, measurements are very critical. And at Mastercard, both for ourselves as well as our clients and partners, we have got templates of what metrics we will track at what frequency, and then take the whole thing forward. So I would say these are some of the barriers at the high level, but every single one of them has to be solved. And it's not one single barrier that we're talking about here.
And Raja, just a follow-up question. Both you and Anna talked about the importance of partnerships, and in the marketing environment, when we talk about partners, we all think about agencies and the important role they play in our industry. Thinking about the Planet Pledge, we have a commitment, for brand owners to sign up to Race to Zero, but then there's also a call on encouraging agencies to equally step up and sign up to that. Can you maybe say a few words about how your dialogue is going with agencies and how you are encouraging them to embrace that Race to Zero challenge?
Okay, so here is one thing what we have to be doing, right? Agencies are not employed by us in a real sense. They're an extension of your team nevertheless. So first and foremost, is there an alignment of philosophy? So you have top-to-top conversation with those folks to say, hey, this is what we as your client are committing, and we would like to partner with you in this effort. We don't want to dangle saying that you do it or else. It's not about blackmailing them into doing something. They have to emotionally buy into it, and they have to really sign up for that purpose. And this is something where the meeting of the minds has to happen, and that's what we have done, number one. And number two, then say, okay, fine, we would like to see and track how you are doing, just like we are tracking ourselves, and we can exchange notes. Are there things that we can learn from you, or are there things that you can learn from us? It's a collaborative process. I would never mandate to an agency, thou shalt do it, but I would say, let's do it together. And this is the kind of approach that I take. And I can also tell you quite a few other brands that are out there who have got very successful and long-standing relationships with their agencies are exactly following a similar kind of a path. And that's what will bring. The most important thing in all this is whether somebody is buying into the cause emotionally and in a real sense, and are they committed to it long term, and are they willing to do something about it in the short term. So, and these are the kind of things that we have to be working through with the agency, and our agency partners have been fantastic.
And Anna, from a Pepsico perspective, how has your dialogue been going with agencies with respect to the Race to Zero ambition?
Yes, I will agree with Raja. I think that the agencies, we bring them along as our partners on this journey. And we have to make sure that we have a shared purpose that we both believe on. What we have seen is with partners that we have, for example, like Omnicom Group, which is a big partner of PepsiCo, they have very specific commitments and targets on similar areas where we feel very passionate about, like energy footprint, greenhouse emissions, renewable energy. So we have found those shared spaces where both of us have identified a passion point, and then we're working together to make sure that we bring them to life. I think, though, that there is still a great opportunity to help galvanize advertising actors as a force for positive change beyond the agencies. So there is a big value chain in terms of producers, directors, in terms of talent, where we also have an opportunity to engage with them and bring them along on this journey. So I will say, in general terms, There is definitely work that we have done with agencies, and it's working. And as Raya said, we need to make sure that we find that point of passion that brings us together to bring it to life. But beyond agencies, I think it's important for us to recognize there are other actors that can also contribute to the ultimate goal that we have, and we have to make sure that we bring them along as well.
Anna, a follow-up question to you. Raja was mentioning the importance of embracing the climate agenda as a sort of longer-term commitment that is embedded in the strategy of the business, and where CMOs come in is the way they actually will be able to connect with consumers in the manner that makes sense to them and that brings them with us on that journey. Do you have sort of examples at PepsiCo in terms of how you've sought to leverage the climate agenda to drive evolutions and behavior among consumers? And can you potentially share with us what you've learned while doing that?
Certainly. If we think about the PepsiCo, the Pepsi initiative that I just mentioned, we're implementing in Europe. We have actually brought the consumers with us. We recognize that for the consumers, sustainability is one of the main topics that they have, and it's very close to their hearts. Particularly younger generations have been very engaged on this agenda. What we have found is that for consumers, sometimes it's difficult to know where to start. So it is not lack of awareness or willingness, it's more how can I make a contribution? How can I contribute to this agenda? And I think that's where the brands have the opportunity to use the platforms that they have to amplify the message and to say, this is how we can contribute to have a better planet. So we have found that initiatives, as I mentioned, like the Pepsi in Europe, initiatives like Lay's Replay, where we're building soccer pitches with used bags of chips. We just launched an initiative with Off the Eaten Path, which is a compostable bag made with plant-based material, so there is no waste on the packaging. Once we give those tools to the consumers, they actually engage right away, and they start finding ways how they can actually feel they're creating an impact. So we become vehicles through which consumers can actually bring to life or find ways to bring to life a purpose that they have identified as important, but they don't know necessarily how to actually act on it.
And Raja, in your experience now, bring consumers with you on that journey. Any experience you can share with us?
Yes, Stephan. So consumers, actually, we can reach them in a 360 fashion. So one is, for example, when they're getting a credit card or a debit card, whatever be the kind of payment product in our own context, we have this partnership with the Doconomy out of Sweden, like I have mentioned. Normally, consumers are used to having a credit limit, which is a financial limit of how much they can spend in a given month. But in this case, the limit is actually on the amount of carbon footprint that they put in. The moment that level of carbon footprint based on the purchases that they make, we estimate it fairly in a very accurate manner, I would say. We turn the card off, or the bank that issues the card turns the card off for that particular month. So therefore, the consumers are being made more aware of their own spending, what they are buying, and they will begin to have that sensitivity about how much of carbon footprint they are putting by consuming various kinds of items. This is one example. The other example, which has been there around for a while, is consumers receive paper statements. So can we actually shift to electronic statements, which is good for the bank, as well as good for the consumer, no clutter, and it's good for the planet. Simple, but effective. The third one I would say is we have run some campaigns where just like, the ice bucket challenge, which was so popular and so successful in the past, we started doing something of that sort, where we ask people to stand in a tree yoga pose or depict planet in their own way and put it on the social media. The idea is to really generate buzz, generate engagement, generate activity. The last two things are, one is we encourage people when we say, hey, when we are trying to run a campaign to win market share, can we also do something for the planet in that situation? So we say, okay, you do something, you're using Mastercard instead of some other card. We contribute a small percentage of profit to plant trees. And like I said, we have a commitment of 100 million trees that we're going to plant. Or we'll be working on cleaning up the rivers and the oceans. So there are different kinds of campaigns which are there around the world that are very relevant in those geographies. So we don't want to have one size fits all, so made in the USA and thrust upon the rest of the world. It's actually highly localized, and local marketers in each country, they take the kind of concepts which are most likely to resonate with the consumers and bring them to life. That's one kind of a thing that we do. And we're running a lot of campaigns for generation of this awareness. We use our brand ambassadors, we use our sports sponsorships, our music sponsorships, whole bunch of activities that we do in marketing. We are trying to build sustainability into it. So when I say that you need to not just have a commitment in abstract, but translate it by blending it into your core business model and business operations, that's when it will be successful, and that's what we are attempting to do, Stephan.
Maybe a word on the upskilling. In the research which I mentioned earlier in our session, it appeared that there is a huge need for upskilling marketing teams, for briefing them on marketing and sustainability and the unique challenges that are linked to that. Raja and then Ana, could you maybe just share how you've been approaching this in order to be responding to what I think there is a big appetite from marketers to learn more and for them to be fully briefed on the unique challenges that the climate agenda is posing to marketers?
So I would say 3 points that we are actually attempting to get people very much up to date in terms of what is sustainability, why is it important, is sustainability just a left-wing agenda, or is it really a problem that the planet is facing? We just want everyone to really understand the situation the way it is, number one. Number two, to put together a small playbook for them, to say that this is how you can actually do various marketing campaigns or take various themes into your marketing campaigns, or have operations with your agencies or in your own shop, whatever you're doing. How can you be very sustainable? So it's a playbook for marketers to help them. And third, we also get some external experts to come and actually give lectures to my team to say, hey, this is how sustainability has to be managed. This is probably the route to success. Here are the best-in-class examples that other companies are doing that you may want to derive inspiration from. And here are some of the the do's and the don'ts, right? Sometimes it's good to see the success, but you also know there are other things which you might want to try, but that somebody else has tried and they have found it doesn't work. So you don't sort of fall into the same trap again, etc. So it's a continuous refocusing people's attention, because there are so many priorities that are there in marketing. Unless you constantly keep it in your line of sight, it's easy to forget. So that's something which we're actually consciously focusing on, and trying to make sure that people have got the right wherewithal, education, tools, monitoring, recognizing and celebrating people who are doing a damn good job.
Thank you. Ana, efforts in terms of upskilling the marketing teams in PepsiCo?
So the PEP Positive, as I said, is a company-wide program that is, it is actually sponsored by our CEO. What we have done is we have taken the PEP Positive agenda and grounded into what it means for marketing and what is our contribution. So the first thing that we have done is we have set our priorities by brand and defined the fights that each brand is going to be fighting. What that means is understand what is the fight of Pepsi, which is very rooted on packaging, which is a great problem to solve for the industry. While Lay's, for example, is more focused on farming, because we work directly with our farmers to source the potatoes. So we have ground the brands on specific fights that are actually laddering up to the ultimate purpose of PEP Positive. And then based on that, we are working with the brands to understand how we can bring this to life, how we can create actions for positive impact and tell stories so that people understand this is what we're doing, and then they want to become part of it. As I said, this is how we can be the starters of the snowball effect for consumers to come along with us. And finally, I think something that is very important, and we have discussed broadly, is progress versus perfection. We have to start somewhere. So what I will say, reflecting of our journey, is we have, at the beginning, we start taking small steps, and those steps become bigger and more impactful as we go along the way. If you wait until you have the perfect plan or you have the perfect engagement, or there are no barriers internally or externally, that time probably will never come, or it will be too late. So I think progress versus perfection also, it's an important mindset on this journey, because we will do more by doing and learning than by just staying where we are.
Thank you. And one last question for both of you. What would you want to ask people watching us today to do in order to make marketing part of the solution when it comes to climate change? The one thing you'd advise them to do?
I would say be an active participant of this journey. It's moving from being a passive agent to be an active agent. Find that thing that ignites passion on you, and pursue it. If you work in a company that has made a commitment, become an active participant of that program. If you work in a company that has not committed to this, start with small things. Where can you actually generate an impact? Don't wait for someone else to come and do it for you, or for someone to become your enabler. Become your enabler, your own enabler of that change. So I would say the biggest advice, an invitation that I will make to everybody listening to us today is transition from a passive agent to an active agent, and make sure that you're leading the way. Others will follow, and the business will follow, because as Raja mentioned earlier, this is not just a trendy topic. This is not just something that we're doing because it's in fashion today. We're doing this because it's, one, the right thing to do for the people and for the planet, and two, because businesses will thrive in communities that are thriving. So it will have an impact on the business as well.
Thank you. Raja, one piece of advice to close?
It's very simple for me. I think Planet Pledge, which WFA has created, is an outstanding platform. Please sign up for that. That will be my one simple single step. Planet Pledge has been very thoughtfully put together by the WFA. Experts have contributed to it. There is the playbook. You also have got the ability to understand from each other, from the other companies, what they are doing, their journeys, the success transfer opportunities, the resources, common resources. It's going to be fantastic. So my single request to you and advice to you as well is, please sign up for Planet Pledge.
Thank you for the conclusion, Raja. And let me add to that anyone who's interested, sign up. Please check us out on the WFA website, wfanet.org, Planet Pledge, and get in touch if you want to sign up. So let me thank both Ana and Raja for the dialogue, and we look forward to working closely together in order to evolve the Planet Pledge. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephan.
Thank you, Stephan.